Oh, jeez. Sometimes you get to play with the lights when nobody else is here. Choose the colors you like. No idea how I turned this much. Shouldn't be like that. Oh, I don't know. It spun around, that's why. It's facing the wrong way. There we go. It's afternoon coffee that maybe I don't need, but it will be nice and tasty. So one of the things that I'm going to try to do over time is do vlog-like content, just to show some of the things that occur with respect to the Osteopathic Lyceum. You know, whether it is conversations with people from Massage Therapy Media and the Canadian Massage Conference, some of the stuff that I do to make sure that the school space is useful for the students, like the things that I'm doing now. I had previously printed posters to have on the walls to communicate some of the general heuristics, and they looked okay, and I definitely made some spelling mistakes on them. So if you play around and look in some of the videos that I've done, you'll spot some of the spelling mistakes. So I've decided to change that and make it smaller and slightly cleaner. So I have grabbed frames and printed out the heuristics, and they're up on the wall, like a decal for the wall, so I'm pointing in the direction of it. You'll see it in future videos, especially the technical videos that I do when I'm teaching. You know, but things like when getting the frames and trying to put them together, right? This isn't going to be perfectly visible, but you can hear it wiggling around. When I was trying to put the glass back in, it shattered on me, or at least a corner shattered on me. So, you know, like the little sort of first world problem type deals. That frame broke, so I was able to get another one. But trying to put those frames up and make the room possibly a little bit more inviting, a little bit more gentle, maybe a more clean look. The thing that would probably be interesting is that as long as there's nothing glaringly distracting, how a space looks probably doesn't impact learning performance. But as a construct on its own, it's nicer to have a space that you put some love and attention to, as opposed to a space that you neglect. So just because a place looks slick doesn't say anything about the content delivered there. Just because a space looks rough doesn't say anything about the content delivered there. So if the content is strong and the space looks bad, people remember the space and the content. If a space looks good and the content is good, they'll remember both all the same. So might as well try to put some effort into it. There's lots of rambling, but whatever. Editing. And sometimes I say I'll edit stuff and I don't. There you go. So yeah, as I noted, I previously had posters up here, which if you look at some videos on the channel, you will have seen those posters. So I took those down, put up the decal. I had some posters on this wall. Clearly all you see is wall, but those are gone. Frames like this down the length of the classroom space, giving you some of the heuristics that guide how we teach people and how we train them to make choices in osteopathic treatment. So the heuristics, I already said that, so I'm doubling down and rambling. But you know, the core heuristics, so I can get that relational motion. So one thing moves in relation to another thing. Contact is control and control is safety, and don't make them say ouch. So that's the barrier concept. So watching through videos up to this point, if you're watching this, you've heard me say this ad nauseum, as have the students. next thing I need to do to get up on the wall in frames is for these two. So one's an image of Dr. Still. We'll zoom in on it. Right, it's not necessarily the best quality image, but you can see right there he's got his hand on something. That is an unexploded Civil War artillery shell. I don't know if it was from a battle that he was at. I think it was the Battle of New Orleans. So he may have been at that battle or he may not have. I don't remember for sure, but that particular item is actually still in the Museum of Osteopathic History in Kirksville, to which I have been twice, thankfully. It was a very enjoyable experience. But Dr. Still, you can see he has some mischief in him. Now, I don't necessarily personally talk about the history of osteopathy a ton or the stories. I talk a little bit more about the technical side. But the stories are pretty interesting. So he's got his walking stick. I think it was he had an umbilical hernia that gave him some trouble. And he fashioned a belt with a spring to keep the hernia. It might have been an inguinal hernia. But he tried to keep the hernia in with springs. And I have this passage. It's essentially the final passage from what is it? Osteopathy Research and Practice. See if I can zoom in on this. I'll let you see it. Just to read a bit from this. It's a passage that I like because it talks to me about maybe the attitude one would have towards the profession or towards many things. This is the day when man's useful education is the practical. The time has come for the practical man to lay down all undemonstrable theories and prove what he says by what he does. He cannot afford to be a laughingstock for those who know and are governed by the absolute laws of nature, the laws that have been demonstrated by steam, electricity, and all professions, by such men as will not walk in the footsteps of past days in pursuit of any subject sacred or profane. The original thinker on any subject cares nothing for the so-called authority, either the past or present. He does not care for the priest, pope, president, czar, emperor, sultan, or any authority but one, and that is the God of nature who proves his perfection by his architecture, his plan, his specification. So, maybe not everybody's going to love that. Maybe not everybody is going to... Let's see if I can do this. No, it's going to be too backlit, but whatever. Anyways, I'll zoom back to this because me being heavily backlit doesn't help anybody. But that general passage is essentially to me, and again, this is definitely opinion because it's left up to interpretation. Dr. Still might have thought he was being exceptionally clear, but once you write something down, it's open to interpretation, unfortunately. Essentially, maybe take a non-standard approach. Just because somebody said something doesn't mean it's right. I heard somebody talking about this, and I think it was Dr. Brian Keating and Jordan Peterson. I think that's where I heard it. Essentially, they were having a conversation, and one of the things they said is that one of the fundamental assumptions in the scientific endeavor is that the experts both can be and are wrong. Therefore, you investigate their claims with more scrutiny. So just because somebody with accreditation says something doesn't mean it's right. It probably means that they are the people who have both offered themselves up to scrutiny and deserve it. So Dr. Still is essentially seeming to say the same thing. And as somebody in osteopathy, I take some solace in the fact that it's in his book, it's in one of his books, and it's essentially the way that I'm attempting to interface with the profession. So whether that is reasonable justification or not, it's at least part of what's informed me. Yesterday, when I started filming this as an experiment to see how vlogging might go, it was a Friday. Today is a Saturday, and actually, after Christmas party, so it's January at the moment, nobody could agree upon, or nobody was really available for the date that was suggested for this Christmas get-together or holiday get-together in December. I can't speak right, in December. So everybody's agreed in January, but because it's not terribly far from where the school is located, they're actually able to come and grab or put the pictures I was showing into frames, because I got the frames. Like I said, that wasn't going to be too hard. Got the frames, lifting the glass out, and gotta be nice and gentle with that. Make sure I don't break them like last time. I'll get those pictures up, and as I think is obvious enough, when there's no students here, when I'm filming stuff. On very, very rare occasions when the students are here, they like to put on the lights that have varying colors on them. But I get to play around with it, just mostly for simple fun. So trying to set this glass in here nice and gentle. It's a nice fit, which is why it ends up being hard. And it'll drop on one side like it's doing now. And then switch sides that it drops into. And I'm trying to get it to set nicely. So I thought I had it, and then it decided to drop on the right side again. Just go nice and slow. And my experience in the profession of osteopathy is everybody giggles about their hands and how sensitive and great they are. I'm not necessarily like that. What I will say is that this being, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a broken 1, 7. So this is the 8th time I've done this. More likely than not, what you're dealing with is learning. Because I definitely screwed up by breaking a piece of glass. So now I learned that I should be much slower. So I did go slower, and that one was probably the easiest of all of them. So we'll keep doing this, and then likely you'll see me putting them up. So now we have the 2 pictures up and framed. The final exhortation, that's probably not going to focus quite properly. Maybe it will if I zoom in. Yeah, okay, but not properly. Got that up. Got the picture of Dr. Still with the unexploded Civil War artillery shell, just to show that, you know, similar to Cal Naughton Jr.'s view of Jesus. You know, he likes to think of his Jesus in a tuxedo t-shirt at a Lynyrd Skynyrd concert. And then we've got all the other ones, some fun lighting.